Ladies, let's talk. Too many of you are walking into relationships with blinders on, only to find yourself trapped in a cycle of manipulation, confusion, and heartbreak. And why? Because you didn't recognize the warning signs of a narcissistic man before it was too late. Now, let me be clear, narcissists are not always easy to spot. They don't walk around with a sign on their forehead that says, "I will drain your energy and destroy your peace." No, they're often charming, confident, and say all the right things. But listen, to me, there are always signs. When a man constantly describes all of his exes as crazy, toxic, or the problem, it's a major red flag. At first, it may seem like he was just unlucky in love. But when every single past relationship follows the same narrative, there's something deeper at play. A person who refuses to acknowledge any personal responsibility for their past relationships is showing you a pattern of avoidance and deflection. He is telling you in his own words that he lacks the ability to self-reflect and grow from his experiences. A man who repeatedly blames his exes for everything that went wrong is likely to do the same to you. In the beginning, he may make you feel special by saying you're different or you're not like the others. But over time, you may start to realize that he is treating you the same way he claimed his exes treated him. This type of person sees himself as the victim in every relationship, which means he never learns from his mistakes. Instead, he will expect you to be the one who adapts, conforms, and adjusts to his ways. Another problem with this behavior is that it indicates a lack of emotional maturity. Relationships require two people to take accountability, learn from their past, and communicate effectively. If a man refuses to see where he may have gone wrong in previous relationships, he will never be able to build something healthy in the present. He may also use his stories about his exes to manipulate you into proving you are better than them. You might find yourself walking on eggshells, making sure you don't upset him the way his past partners supposedly did. This is an unhealthy dynamic, and over time, it can lead to emotional exhaustion. Pay attention to the details when he talks about his past relationships. Does he ever mention his own mistakes? Does he acknowledge how he could have handled things differently? Or is it always about how he was wrong? If every woman before you was jealous, clingy, disrespectful, or manipulative, ask yourself, could they all really have been that way? Or is he the common denominator? Sometimes a narcissistic man will bring up past relationships as a way to guilt trip you. He might say things like, "I've been through so much," or "I just don't want to get hurt again," as a way to make you feel responsible for his emotions. This can be a tactic to control your behavior, making you feel obligated to prove that you won't hurt him like the others supposedly did. Another thing to watch for is how he reacts when you express concerns about his past. If you ask him about the role he played in those relationships and he becomes defensive, dismissive, or angry, that's another red flag. A healthy individual can acknowledge past mistakes and discuss them with maturity. A narcissist, on the other hand, will dodge accountability and find ways to shift blame. When you meet a narcissistic man, the first thing he does is make you feel like the most special person in the world. He showers you with affection, attention, and constant compliments. He might tell you that you're the best thing that's ever happened to him, that he's never met anyone like you, or that he feels an instant connection with you. It feels intense, overwhelming, and like a dream come true. This is what's known as love bombing, and it's one of the most dangerous manipulation tactics a narcissist will use. Love bombing works because it creates an illusion of deep connection very quickly. It makes you feel like you found the perfect relationship, as if this man truly sees and values you in a way no one else ever has. He will text you nonstop, want to be around you all the time, and make grand gestures that feel almost too good to be true. He may even talk about the future right away, saying things like, "I can already see myself marrying you," or "I've never felt this way about anyone before." In the moment, it feels intoxicating, but the reality is that this is not genuine love, it's control disguised as affection. The reason narcissists use love bombing is because they need to secure your emotional investment as quickly as possible. If they can make you fall hard and fast, they gain the power to manipulate you before you even have time to recognize the red flags. Love bombing is designed to lower your defenses. When someone makes you feel like you're in a fairy tale romance, you don't stop to question whether it's real. You ignore the warning signs, excuse bad behavior, and overlook inconsistencies because you're too caught up in the rush of affection. One of the most telling signs of love bombing is that it feels too intense too soon. A healthy relationship grows gradually with trust and emotional intimacy developing over time. A narcissist, however, will rush the process, making everything feel urgent. They may say, I've never met someone like you, or I feel like I've known you forever, even if it's only been a few weeks. They do this because they know that once they've pulled you in emotionally, they can start to shift the dynamic in their favor. Once a narcissist feels they have you hooked, the love bombing stops. The sweet words, the constant attention, and the grand gestures fade away. Suddenly, the man who once couldn't get enough of you is distant, critical, or even cold. You may find yourself confused, wondering what changed or what you did wrong. This shift is intentional. It creates a cycle where you chase the affection he once gave freely, trying to get back to that magical beginning. He now has control, and the emotional roller coaster begins. The key to recognizing love bombing is paying attention to the pace of the relationship. If everything is moving too fast, if he's putting you on a pedestal before truly knowing you, or if it feels overwhelming rather than natural, those are signs that something isn't right. Love should feel safe, steady, and secure, not like an emotional high followed by confusion and doubt. When dealing with a narcissistic man, one of the biggest indicators of his true nature is how he responds to criticism. In the beginning, he may seem confident, charming, and self-assured. But as soon as you express any concern, dissatisfaction, or suggestion for improvement, his entire demeanor can shift. He may become defensive, dismissive, or even aggressive. Instead of listening and taking accountability, he will find ways to turn the situation around on you, making you feel like you are the problem for simply expressing your feelings. A narcissist cannot handle criticism because his entire self-image is built on the idea that he is superior, flawless, and always right. Any form of feedback that challenges this illusion is seen as a direct attack. If you bring up something small, like how he forgot to call you back, or how his words hurt your feelings, he will not take responsibility. Instead, he may say things like, you're overreacting, you're being too sensitive, or you always have something to complain about. This kind of response is not only dismissive, but is also a form of gaslighting, making you question whether your feelings are valid in the first place. In some cases, he may take the criticism and immediately flip the script. Instead of addressing your concern, he will bring up something you did wrong in the past or accuse you of being the one with the real issue. For example, if you say, I felt hurt when you ignored my text, he might respond with, well, remember that time you didn't answer my call? You do the same thing. This tactic is called deflection and is designed to shift the focus away from his behavior and onto you. Instead of having a productive conversation, you end up defending yourself while he avoids accountability. Another reaction to criticism from a narcissist is complete shutdown or withdrawal. If he can't argue his way out of it, he may resort to silent treatment, acting as if you don't exist until you apologize or drop the issue. This emotional punishment is meant to teach you a lesson that expressing your concerns will lead to distance, coldness, and rejection. Over time, you may start to suppress your thoughts and feelings just to keep the peace, which is exactly what he wants. On the extreme end, some narcissistic men will lash out in anger when criticized. They may raise their voice, insult you, or even act in an intimidating way to make sure you never challenge them again. Their goal is to make you afraid of speaking up so that they can continue doing whatever they want without accountability. The inability to accept criticism is not just a personality flaw, it's a sign of emotional immaturity and deep insecurity. A healthy, emotionally stable man will be open to feedback, willing to work on himself, and able to have mature conversations about concerns in a relationship. A narcissist, on the other hand, will always find a way to make you regret ever bringing it up in the first place. A narcissistic man lacks the ability to truly empathize with others. At first, he may appear to be caring and attentive, but over time, you start to notice that his concern for your emotions is shallow or even non-existent. When you're happy, he may acknowledge it, but only if it serves his own interests. When you're struggling or upset, however, his response can range from dismissive to completely indifferent. He doesn't genuinely care about how you feel unless it directly affects him in some way. In a healthy relationship, a partner listens, offers support, and tries to understand what you're going through. A narcissist, on the other hand, will downplay your emotions or make you feel like you're overreacting. If you're sad about something, instead of offering comfort, he might say, "You're too sensitive. That's not a big deal." Or "You always make everything about you." Rather than acknowledging your feelings, he invalidates them, making you second guess whether you even have the right to feel upset in the first place. When you try to talk to him about something that hurt you, he may show little to no concern. Instead of apologizing or asking how he can make things better, he might roll his eyes, sigh in frustration, or change the subject altogether. His lack of empathy is especially clear when you're dealing with something difficult, like stress at work, family problems, or personal struggles. Rather than offering support, he might act bored or irritated, making you feel like your emotions are a burden. At times, he may even turn your pain into an opportunity for himself. If you come to him for comfort, he might shift the focus back to himself, saying something like, "You think you have it bad. I had a horrible day too," or "I've been through worse." Instead of being there for you, he uses the moment to make himself the center of attention. This type of behavior makes it impossible to have a relationship that feels emotionally safe and supportive. A narcissistic man also struggles to show genuine compassion toward others, not just his partner. Pay attention to how he talks about people in his life. Does he ever express concern for a friend who's struggling? Does he show kindness towards strangers or display any level of emotional awareness when discussing other people's hardships? If he constantly belittles others, lacks sympathy for those going through tough times, or seems emotionally disconnected, these are signs that he is incapable of forming deep emotional connections. Another way his lack of empathy shows up is in the way he reacts when he hurts you. If you express that something he did made you feel bad rather than apologizing sincerely, he may act like you're making a big deal out of nothing. He might even turn around and make himself the victim, saying something like, "I can't believe you think so little of me," or "You always find a reason to blame me." This manipulation tactic is meant to distract you from the original issue and make you feel guilty instead of addressing your pain. A narcissistic man constantly plays the victim to avoid taking responsibility for his actions. No matter what happens, he will always have an excuse, a justification, or someone else to blame. At first, this may not be obvious because he tells his stories in a way that makes him seem like the unfortunate one, the misunderstood one, or the one who keeps getting hurt. He may talk about how his exes betrayed him, how his friends turned against him, or how life has been unfair to him. If you listen closely, though, you'll notice a pattern: he is never at fault. This victim mentality allows him to manipulate others into feeling sorry for him. If he makes you believe that he has been repeatedly mistreated, you may feel an urge to prove that you are different. You want to be the one who treats him right, who shows him real love, who doesn't abandon him the way others supposedly did. This is exactly what he wants. By making himself seem wounded, he gets you to lower your guard and invest more in the relationship, all while avoiding accountability for his past mistakes. In disagreements, he will twist the situation to make himself look like the one who's suffering. Even if he clearly did something wrong, he will find a way to shift the blame. If you express frustration about something he said or did, instead of acknowledging it, he might say, "I can't believe you think I would do that on purpose," or "You always assume the worst about me." By turning himself into the victim, he puts you on a defensive, making you feel guilty for even bringing up the issue. If he hurts you emotionally instead of apologizing, he will find a way to make you feel like you caused the situation. If he raises his voice, he'll say it's because you made him angry. If he ignores you, he'll say he just needed space because you were being too demanding. He never takes ownership of his actions, always making it seem like his behavior is a reaction to something you did. This is a form of manipulation that keeps you stuck in a cycle of constantly trying to fix things, even when you're not the one who caused the problem. A narcissistic man also uses his victim mentality as a way to escape consequences. If he cheats, lies, or breaks your trust, he will justify it by saying he was pushed to do it. He might blame his past, his childhood, or even stress at work. He will expect you to excuse his actions because of the difficulties he claims to have faced. If you don't, he will make you feel like you are heartless for not understanding his struggle. This constant victim mindset is dangerous because it creates an environment where he is never held accountable. If he never sees himself as the problem, he will never change. Instead, he will continue to manipulate, control, and avoid responsibility, leaving you to carry the emotional weight of the relationship alone. A narcissistic man thrives on control, and one of his biggest tools is making you feel guilty for things that shouldn't even be an issue. He wants you to second guess yourself, to feel like you're always doing something wrong, and to constantly seek his approval. Guilt becomes his weapon of choice because it allows him to manipulate your emotions without ever having to take direct responsibility. Instead of telling you outright what to do, he makes you feel bad for not doing what he wants. In the beginning, guilt tripping may be subtle. He might say things like, "I guess I'll just be alone tonight if you make plans with friends," or "I thought you cared about me," if you don't immediately do something he wants. These small comments may seem harmless, but over time, they create an emotional weight that makes you feel responsible for his happiness. You start adjusting your behavior to avoid upsetting him, even if it means sacrificing your own needs. A narcissist will also use past favors or sacrifices against you. If he did something nice for you once, he will remind you of it every time he wants something in return. He may say, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me," or "I've given you so much and you can't even do this one thing for me." He doesn't do things out of genuine love. Everything comes with strings attached. His kindness is a form of currency that he expects to cash in whenever it benefits him. Another way he guilt trips you is by making you feel like you're the reason he's unhappy. If he's in a bad mood, he'll suggest that it's because of something you did or didn't do. If he fails at something in life, he may imply that you didn't support him enough. If he lashes out, he'll say, "You made me act this way." No matter the situation, he wants you to believe that his emotions, reactions, and failures are somehow your responsibility. If you ever try to set boundaries, a narcissist will immediately try to make you feel guilty for it. If you say you need space, he will accuse you of not caring about him. If you stand up for yourself, he will act like you are attacking him. If you decide to walk away, he will suddenly play the victim, crying, apologizing, and telling you that you're abandoning him. He will say whatever it takes to make you doubt your decision so that he can keep control over you. Over time, this constant guilt manipulation wears you down. You may find yourself apologizing for things that weren't your fault, changing your behavior to keep the peace, or feeling like no matter what you do, it's never enough. A narcissistic man will never take responsibility for his own emotions, so he makes you carry the weight instead. The more guilty you feel, the easier it is for him to control you. A narcissistic man thrives on double standards, expecting loyalty, respect, and consideration from you while giving none in return. He believes that the rules that apply to you do not apply to him. This imbalance can show up in different areas of the relationship, but at its core, it is about control. He wants to keep you in a position where you are constantly proving yourself to him while he feels entitled to do as he pleases. In the beginning, he may set expectations for you that seem reasonable. He might say he values honesty, loyalty, and respect in a relationship. However, as time goes on, you will notice that he does not hold himself to the same standard. He may demand full transparency from you, expecting to know where you are, who you're with, and what you're doing at all times. If you question him in the same way, he will act offended, defensive, or accuse you of not trusting him. He may even call you insecure or controlling just for wanting the same level of openness he requires from you. When it comes to loyalty, the double standard becomes even more obvious. He may get upset if you talk to another man, even in a completely innocent context, but he will flirt, entertain attention from other women, or even cheat without seeing any issue. If you bring it up, he will justify his actions, saying it's harmless, that you're overreacting, or that you need to stop being jealous. However, if the roles were reversed, he would make sure you felt guilty for the exact same behavior. He will also hold you to impossible emotional standards while making excuses for his own behavior. If you have a bad day and express frustration, he may say you're being dramatic or too emotional. However, if he has a bad day and lashes out, you are expected to be patient, understanding, and supportive. If you make a mistake, he won't let you forget it. But if he does something wrong, he will expect immediate forgiveness. And if you don't give it, he will make you feel like you're the problem. Another way this double standard plays out is in effort. He may expect you to go out of your way to show love and appreciation, planning special dates, checking in on him, doing little things to make his life easier. But when it comes to him making an effort for you, suddenly there are excuses. He's too busy, too tired, or just not in the mood. He takes what you give without reciprocating, yet if you ever slow down your effort, he will make you feel guilty for not being a good partner. Over time, these double standards create a dynamic where you are always on edge, trying to meet expectations that he does not hold himself to. The imbalance is designed to keep you in a position where you are always trying to earn his approval while he does whatever he wants without consequences. A narcissistic man will never give you true emotional security because keeping you uncertain benefits him. In a healthy relationship, there is a sense of consistency, stability, and reassurance. You know where you stand with your partner, and there is no constant fear of being abandoned, manipulated, or emotionally neglected. But with a narcissist, things feel unstable because he thrives on keeping you emotionally unbalanced. One moment he showers you with attention and affection, making you feel special and wanted, and the next he becomes distant, cold, or even cruel. This unpredictability keeps you hooked, always trying to figure out what went wrong and how to get back to the version of him that once made you feel loved. A narcissist plays mind games to keep you guessing. He may go from telling you how much he cares about you to acting indifferent or dismissive without any explanation. If you ask what's wrong, he might say you're being needy or overly emotional. He creates uncertainty on purpose because when you're unsure of how he feels, you try harder to gain his love and approval. This cycle is exhausting, but it serves his purpose. It makes you more emotionally invested while he remains in control. Another tactic he uses is making you feel like the relationship is always at risk. Instead of providing reassurance during conflicts, he may threaten to leave, saying things like, maybe we're not meant to be, or I don't know if I can do this anymore. He wants you to feel like you are the one who has to fight to keep the relationship together. This makes you afraid of speaking up, setting boundaries, or expressing your needs because you don't want to push him away. Over time, you start walking on eggshells, doing whatever it takes to keep him happy so that he doesn't leave. A narcissist also withholds emotional support when you need it most. When you are struggling, instead of comforting you, he may act uninterested, annoyed, or even disappear altogether. But when he needs attention, validation, or support, he expects you to be fully present for him. This imbalance leaves you feeling alone, even while in a relationship. He conditions you to accept the bare minimum, making you believe that any small act of affection or attention from him is something you should be grateful for. Even when he does show love, it often feels conditional. If you do what he wants, he will be warm and affectionate. But the moment you express an opinion he doesn't like or make a choice he disapproves of, he will withdraw. This hot and cold behavior keeps you dependent on him, always trying to earn back the love he randomly takes away. True emotional security in a relationship comes from consistency, mutual respect, and open communication. A narcissistic man, however, does not provide that because his goal is not to build a healthy connection, it's to keep you attached, uncertain, and constantly working for a love that should have been given freely. A narcissistic man will drain you emotionally because the relationship is built around his needs, his desires, and his problems while yours are consistently ignored. At first, he may seem incredibly charming, engaging, and even attentive, but over time, you start to notice that every interaction revolves around him. He talks about his struggles, his ambitions, his frustrations, and when you try to share something about yourself, he either dismisses it or quickly redirects the conversation back to himself. This creates a dynamic where you become his emotional caretaker while receiving little to no support in return. Every problem in his life becomes your responsibility to fix. If he's stressed at work, upset with a friend, or dealing with personal challenges, he expects you to listen, sympathize, and offer solutions. But when you need the same level of care, he acts uninterested or impatient, making you feel like your emotions are a burden. You start holding back your own feelings because you know that no matter what you're going through, he will always make his issues seem bigger, more important, or more urgent. He also drains you by creating constant conflict, whether it's through unnecessary arguments, passive-aggressive behavior, or emotional withdrawal. He keeps you in a state of tension. Some days, everything seems fine, but without warning, he finds something to criticize, accuses you of things you didn't do, or acts distant without explanation. You spend so much time trying to figure out what went wrong that you don't even realize how exhausted you are. This emotional roller coaster is intentional. It keeps you so focused on maintaining peace that you don't have the energy to see how unhealthy the relationship has become. A narcissist also drains you by making you feel like you're never enough. No matter how much effort you put into making him happy, he always finds something to complain about. If you're affectionate, he might say you're too clingy. If you give him space, he might say you don't care enough. If you try to communicate, he might call you too emotional. No matter what you do, it never seems to be right. This constant feeling of inadequacy wears you down, making you feel like you have to work even harder just to earn his approval. Over time, the emotional exhaustion spills into other areas of your life. You may find yourself more anxious, struggling to focus, or feeling disconnected from the things that once made you happy. Your relationships with friends and family may suffer because he demands so much of your time and energy. You start to lose yourself, prioritizing his needs so much that you forget about your own. What makes this so damaging is that a narcissistic man rarely acknowledges the toll he takes on you. Instead, if you express feeling drained, he will make you feel guilty for it, acting as if you are the one who is difficult, ungrateful, or overly sensitive. This keeps you trapped in a cycle of constantly giving while receiving nothing in return. A narcissistic man will make you feel isolated because he knows that the more disconnected you are from others, the easier it is to control you. In the beginning, it may not be obvious because he doesn't immediately demand that you cut people off. Instead, he slowly influences the way you see your relationships, planting seeds of doubt and creating tension between you and those who care about you. At first, he may say things like, "I don't think your friend really has your best interests at heart," or "Your family doesn't seem to respect you the way they should." These comments make you question the people in your life, even if you've never had issues with them before. As time goes on, he starts finding ways to subtly discourage you from spending time with others. If you make plans, he might guilt trip you by saying, "I was really looking forward to spending time with you tonight, but I guess I'll just be alone." If you go anyway, he may act cold or distant when you return, making you feel bad for leaving him. This pattern continues until you start canceling plans just to avoid the guilt or tension that comes afterward. He may also create conflicts around the people closest to you, making it seem like they don't like him or that they're trying to sabotage your relationship. He wants you to believe that he is the only one who truly understands and supports you. Another way he isolates you is by making you feel like your relationships with others are problematic. If you have a friend who sees through his behavior, he will label them as toxic or say they're jealous of your relationship. If your family expresses concern about the way he treats you, he will convince you that they are trying to control you or don't want to see you happy. Over time, you may start distancing yourself from the people who actually care about you, not because you want to, but because he has made you believe it's necessary, even in social settings. He finds ways to make you feel disconnected. He may act charming and friendly in front of others, making it difficult for anyone to see his true nature. If you try to express concerns about his behavior, he may twist the story, making you look like the problem. He enjoys creating an environment where you feel like no one will believe you, so you stop reaching out for help altogether. Once he successfully isolates you, he has full control. With no strong support system, you start relying on him for emotional validation, even when he is the one causing your pain. If you ever consider leaving, the thought of being alone feels overwhelming because he has made sure that you have no one else to turn to. This is how he keeps you trapped, by making you believe that he is all you have. And finally, know your worth. A narcissist preys on people who don't fully recognize their own value. When you love yourself deeply, you won't tolerate anything less than the love and respect you deserve. Ladies, protect your heart. You are not here to be someone's emotional supply. You are here to be loved, cherished, and respected. The right man will never leave you.